We're going to talk about Adam Peaty's 100 breaststroke at the 2019 World Championships. Before we get into the details, let's get a little bit of background. Adam Peaty came onto the scene in late 2015 and really started dominating the 100-meter breaststroke races, winning the Olympic gold medal at the 2016 Games, becoming the first man to break 58 seconds in the 100-meter breaststroke. He then embarked on a new project to become the first man to break 57 in the 100-meter breaststroke. In late 2018, Adam Peaty set the world record at a 57.10, just narrowly missing becoming the first man to break 57 seconds in the 100-meter breaststroke. And by the start of the 2019 World Championships, Adam Peaty had the 15 fastest performances all time in the 100-meter breaststroke. And by the end of the 2019 World Championships, he would increase that to having 18 of the fastest all-time performances in the 100-meter breaststroke. Adam Peaty's aggressive, up-tempo style of breaststroke has challenged the foundations that many coaches and swimmers have been relying on for years in terms of what is the proper breaststroke technique. And his pure domination in the 100-meter breaststroke in recent years has made many coaches and swimmers rethink how they approach breaststroke. In his first 50, Adam Peaty has an average tempo of 1.13 seconds per cycle, and in his second 50, he has an average tempo of 1.07 seconds per cycle. You can really see Peaty's tempo start to pick up pace as he kind of gets into the last 25 of the race, closing in with a few basically 1.0 second per cycle tempos towards the end of that 100-meter race. And it's incredibly, he's averaging almost a quarter of a second faster than what world-class breaststrokers did before. And in fact, the swimmer who held the world record before Peaty, Cameron Vandenberg, was about a 1.25 to 1.3 seconds per cycle in his tempo in breaststroke. And the reason his tempo is so fast isn't necessarily because he's moving his arms fast. Certainly that's part of it. But the big thing is actually his kick. He has a very narrow kick, and it's still very efficient, which allows him to get his feet around faster and initiate that next arm pull. Here are his stroke counts, and we can see that he has a 4-stroke drop off from his first 50 to his second 50. And what we really notice is in his first 50 he's averaging 1.84 meters per stroke, and in his second 50 he's averaging 1.74 meters per stroke. And that's probably due to some increased fatigue overall from the race and how he's ramping up his tempo as well. One of the most interesting parts of Adam Peaty's race is we can see that after his dive and his pullout, he's actually a little bit behind the field and has to catch them within the first couple of strokes. We can take a look at his splits here. In my opinion, I think that a 3.6 second fade between the first 50 and the second 50 splits is pretty big, but it's not abnormal for how he swims his race. He was only out 0.12 faster than his previous world record, and actually finished 0.22 under his world record time. So in this swim, he was out faster and back faster. So I don't necessarily think that 3.6 second fade is indicative of some kind of improvement that he may be able to make, or that he took out the race too aggressively. It fits right in line with his race strategy and obviously paid off. He broke his own world record and became the first man to break 57 seconds in the 100-meter breaststroke. He does a tremendous job of maintaining his body line throughout his up-tempo breaststroke. The speed and efficiency of his kick allows him to have a much larger pull than most of his other competitors, and still get that pull done and keep his overall tempo rate quick. And these are things we can take to when we go back to practice and work on the pool. We can work on having a more narrow and efficient kick, We can try out different pole sizes and speeds to see what fits. And we can try moving towards a low 1-1 or a 1-0 tempo rate in breaststroke. You know, as a former breaststroker and as a coach who likes looking at all these interesting details, my biggest takeaways is Adam Peaty really challenged the foundation of the stroke. He's not necessarily focused on finding his line every time he gets his arm out in front of him. He still does it, but it's not the idea of hitting a line and gliding. The stroke that most coaches are teaching in breaststroke. The stroke that I used when I raced breaststroke. You know, and another thing he does that's different is he's out very aggressive in that first 50. And we see sprinters get out fast and have bigger fades, and we see it across all levels of the sport. But I think the biggest things to take away from Adam Peaty's swim isn't necessarily what he's doing, his distance per stroke, his tempo rate, his body length, his efficiency. All of those things are great, and all those things are things that we want to work on to improve our breaststroke. I think the biggest thing to take away is that what works for some people isn't necessarily what's going to work for you. Adam Peaty works better on a faster tempo. He works better taking his race out faster. And he's fine-tuned these things through years of training and racing and trying out different strategies and failing sometimes. But that's what it takes. And I think that if we can show up to practice every day with the idea of we're going to take the foundations of what we know and we're going to build on that until we get to somewhere where we're unknown. And we're going to test and we're going to push the limits. That's what's going to be the biggest difference maker. Because he was willing to try something new, because he was willing to go against the traditional norms of breaststroke, he's not only the first man and the only man to break 57, he's the only man to break 58 in the 100 breaststroke. We often talk about the fact that he has, maybe 18 of the fastest performances of all time, when we see other swimmers like him that just absolutely dominate the field, and then the field slowly catches up. But with Peaty, in 100 breaststroke, he's so far ahead of the second fastest performer, and even further ahead of the 5th and the 10th fastest performer of all time. That clearly he's found something. He's found a breaststroke. He's found a 100 breaststroke racing strategy. He's found something that works for him, and is right now the best strategy of all time. So what can we do? How can we find what's next in the 100-meter breaststroke?